We are coming on the air tonight with life on Bermuda stopped in its tracks as Hurricane Ernesto gets stronger and closer to the island, bringing with it life-threatening conditions. Plus, your end of summer plans might be dusting off those masks and air purifiers, while the United States is seeing its biggest wave of COVID cases in at least 2 years. Then a Missouri woman in custody tonight for allegedly orchestrating a big scheme to basically steal Elvis Presley's Graceland mansion. How she was able to get so far into this whole plot before they tracked her down. And as, quote, nudify sites that create and share deep fake porn explode in popularity, a first-of-its-kind lawsuit aims at stopping an issue that sometimes isn't even considered illegal. The details on that ahead. Plus, in tonight's original, one community's fight to end racism in housing deeds, how decades-old racist language in those documents affects non-white homeowners still to this day, and what's being done to change it. Hey, everybody, I'm Yasmin Vasugian in for Hallie Jackson tonight. We're going to begin with some breaking news in Bermuda, where the entire island is essentially shut down as it's bracing for impact from Hurricane Ernesto, the massive storm inching closer every single minute. You can see the wind starting to pick up here. Ernesto strengthening overnight to a Cat 2, and it's packing gusts over 100 miles an hour. The eye of the storm is set to pass over the west end of the island tomorrow morning, and it could bring up to 15 inches of rain. Some startling images we're already seeing there. All day, people have been boarding up their buildings, travelers getting the last flights home. Government officials are warning locals to get indoors and to stay there as they are preparing for what they're calling a long-duration event.
We are facing an intense and prolonged period, at least 36 hours of very powerful and life-threatening winds. Folks, be under no illusion. This storm is the real deal.
The real deal. So meanwhile, here in the United States, we got a warning for beachgoers this weekend. We could actually see some extremely dangerous rip currents surf all along the Northeast. And then in Puerto Rico, people are still recovering from that storm as well. Over 200,000 still without power. We've got NBC's Stephen Romo and Angie Lassman. They're tracking all of this for us. I want to start, though, with Stephen in Hamilton, Bermuda. Stephen, if you will, take us there. What do you see? And I know we're just a couple of hours away from really kind of the winds picking up there, the water picking up there as well, and seeing the beginnings of this Cat 2 storm now.
We're getting those outer rain bands. We'll have a strong wind and rain, then it'll die down a bit. But the storm, Ernesto, it is approaching. As you said, it is expected in the early morning hours on Saturday. The island is shutting down. The airport is closing in just a couple hours. Bus service stopping. They've taken lifeguards off the beaches. They're telling people to stay indoors. The roads, they say, do not get on the road after 7 p.m. They've actually closed the causeway, the thin strip of bridges and land that connects the mainland from St. David's Island, where the airport is located. They're shutting that down altogether. They say it's going to be difficult for emergency responders to get to people if they need help. So they're urging people to be safe. There are people that are still getting in the water in some places. The police actually posting on X saying, do not do that. We will not be able to come and help you if you get in trouble. So get indoors. They're taking this very seriously. Bermuda knows a thing or two about powerful storms, and they are not taking any chances with this one, Yasmin.
I want to talk about some of those powerful storms they know about. One of them being Hurricane Fiona, right? Didn't even make landfall in Bermuda back in 2022, but certainly packed a punch on that island there. Are they prepared for this? What are they expecting from this storm?
Yeah, with Fiona, and even further back, you have Fabian back in 2003. They learned a lot of lessons then. A lot of their electrical lines are now buried underground. And Puerto Rico, Ernesto, as a tropical storm, knocked out power for hundreds of thousands of people. They're hoping that some of their preparation, their infrastructure will prevent that here. Many of their homes are built out of concrete, even have limestone roofs. They're hoping that will help protect a bit from the lessons learned in the past. But they say even as much as you try to prepare a place for a hurricane, you never know exactly what you're going to get. So they're hoping for the best as they await Ernesto. Yasmin.
Stephen Romo, please, my friends, stay safe as you are tracking this all for us. Appreciate you. Want to bring in now NBC's Angie Lassman tracking this for us as well from here. Angie, let's talk through some of this, because yesterday when we were looking at this storm, it was being tracked as a Category 1 storm. Now, obviously, picking up speed and size. It's making its way towards Bermuda, now being a Category 2 hurricane. Walk us through what you're seeing.
Yeah, so Yasmin, this is a big storm. We know that those tropical storm force winds extend 275 miles outward from the center. Notice where the location is right now, 125 miles to the south-southwest of Bermuda. So they're already starting to see things deteriorate. We haven't received, of course, the hurricane force wind gusts on the island just yet, but that's to come here as we get into the evening hours, overnight, and early tomorrow. 100-mile-per-hour winds that put it, as you mentioned, as a Cat 2. It is moving northeast right now at a pretty good clip of 13 miles per hour. Notice what happens here as we get into the overnight hours and into early tomorrow. Those hurricane force winds arrive. That's going to be problematic for potentially some power outages and things like that. But we're also going to be looking at the dangerous storm surge and the flooding. As we look through at least ahead into Saturday, the potential for rainfall totals are quite impressive. 3 to 5 inches in some spots, but upwards of 7 inches is going to be possible. We'll see maybe the top totals coming in around double digits, maybe 10 inches. So the flash flooding is going to be something that we definitely are going to watch here as we get through at least Saturday. Now, the good news for Bermuda, once they get on the other side of Saturday, once we head into Sunday, things are really going to start to improve as the system lifts to the north. It will, of course, weaken. We're talking about a Category 1 here as we get into Monday and beyond. And we could be looking at Atlantic Canada seeing some impacts down the line.
So hundreds of miles off the East Coast, and yet we're still kind of giving these warnings over the weekend of these pretty dangerous rips that we could be seeing up and down the East Coast. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so when you have a system this big, we know that the swells that are generated from it can be quite massive as well, and that's what we're going to look for along the East Coast. These are indirect impacts, but they're nothing to laugh at. We have the potential for some high risks of rip currents up and down the East Coast. So if you're planning to make it a beach weekend anywhere along the East Coast, from Miami up through New York City, up through Maine, this is going to be something you want to watch. You'll notice the red flag warnings that will be up. We'll also potentially be looking at the maybe some coastal erosion from this. This is going to be something, though, that we'll start to see kind of wind down as we get into early next week, but definitely something you want to be aware of up and down the East Coast this weekend, Yasmin.
Angie Lastman, thank you. Appreciate it. Vice President Kamala Harris leaving North Carolina in just the last hour or so after her first major policy speech focusing on the economy, telling voters about her middle-class upbringing and saying that she plans to build on the foundation of progress in the economy.
Today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world. Still, we know that many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy.
So here's what that would actually look like. Let me walk you through it. Harris says she's going to ban price gouging for groceries, expanding the child tax credit from $2,000 to $6,000 per child for some families, cutting taxes for families, frontline workers, building 3 million housing units across the country, and then capping prescription drug prices like insulin, for instance. I want to bring in Yamiche Alcindor from Raleigh, North Carolina, to talk more about all of this and then some. Yamiche, as always, it is a pleasure, my friend. So I want to take a look at some of the most recent polling, right? Because when it comes to the economy, the vice president seems to be gaining the trust of some voters. 42% of voters saying they trust her to handle the economy. Of course, though, here we have to say the margin of error is pretty tight. One of the things the VP actually mentioned doing is banning price gouging on groceries. How would that actually work, and how much would it really help people?
Well, that's really a key question here, because the impact is going to be very crucial to her sort of really trying to see whether or not she can really help middle class families in the way she said that she wants to. So she is saying that she would work with Congress to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging, specifically when targeting food and grocery stores. Now, this overlaps with what President Biden has been doing. So in some ways, this is building on what the president has already been doing here. But she also says that she would ask for new powers. So this would be new sort of ways that she could slap restrictions on grocery stores and other places that break the rules. And she would get those, she said, through state prosecutors as well as the Federal Trade Commission. Now, why is she talking about this now, and why is she talking about this in North Carolina? Listen to this North Carolina business owner talking to NBC News about sort of his frustrations and concerns.
Our food costs here are incredibly high. If you're buying a used car, you know, that's high. If you're trying to fill it with gas, that's high. So the everyday things that people feel are still, you know, way high, and it takes money out of their pocket for other things that they need to do.
So the vice president is hoping that people across the country, but definitely in North Carolina, a state that she wants to be more competitive in, will buy into the idea that she is trying to help middle-class families, Yasmin.
How is she distinguishing herself from President Biden and his policies on the economy?
Well, it's another key question, because if you want to sort of put up for folks what we're seeing in terms of polling here with her and Donald Trump, this is a CNBC source. 40% of Americans believe that that he would be the candidate that would be better financially for them, while 21% believe that it would be Harris, and 35% say the winner will not make a difference here. So the reason why she's talking about this, and the reason why this is sort of a thing, is because she's trying to make sure that people see her as a little bit different from President Biden, because he was losing on the economy and the question of the economy and whether or not voters trusted him. In this way, she's trying to both say that she wants to build on what President Biden is doing, but she also wants to take it one step further, which is why we also saw her talking not only about the things that we talked about with this price gouging, but also she laid out a number of housing policies here, and also talked about sort of her background as a middle-class American living with her mother, working at McDonald's. So she was really in some ways trying to lean into that and to tell voters, you should trust me, not only because I have the policies, but also because I have the life experience.
I also felt like she leaned into this moment of acknowledging for Americans that despite the fact that we are all talking about the economy being incredibly strong, that we're not necessarily headed towards a recession, that we're in a good place, that Americans are in fact suffering. They're still going to the grocery store, they're still getting their bills in the mail, and they're having a tough time looking at those prices. And she's acknowledging that today in her press conference.
That's right. She is acknowledging that. She said specifically that the price of bread and the price of goods are higher than they were before the pandemic, and that's problematic. She also said that we should be in a nation where children don't grow up in poverty at all, and where every American should have the opportunity to buy a home. She talked about the fact that she wants to build what she called an opportunity economy, and she said building the middle class will be sort of the defining characteristic of her campaign and her presidency. So that was her sort of nodding to the fact that even if on paper the economy is going well, there are a host of Americans around the country who don't feel well.
Yamiche, thank you. Appreciate it. Also tonight, everybody, we're learning more about the 5 people charged in Matthew Perry's death and their alleged role in providing him with dangerous levels of ketamine. You have Kenneth Iwamasa, Perry's live-in personal assistant, who's accused of acting as the intermediary to get the drug for his boss. Prosecutors also saying he injected Perry with ketamine multiple times, even though he did not have any medical training. Then you have Dr. Mark Chavez and Dr. Salvador Plasencia, both accused of providing Perry with ketamine. Prosecutors are saying Plasencia told a patient that Perry was too far gone and spiraling in his addiction, but still offered to sell the actor ketamine. That happened the week before Matthew Perry died. When Matthew Perry and his assistant went looking for more ketamine, Perry's mutual friend, Eric Fleming, introduced them to the ketamine queen, that is Jasveen Sangha. Plasencia and the ketamine queen have pled not guilty to the charges against them. Steve Patterson has been following all of this for us and joins us now. The court filings, Steve, are also telling us a lot about Matthew Perry's final days. Walk us through what we learned.
They're telling us a whole lot. It might as well be a blueprint. I've got the superseding indictment in front of me right now. This thing is so detailed. It's incredibly vivid. Names, pictures, text messages, you name it, including what prosecutors call several overt acts that are sort of listed in this that detail why these 5 people would have led to directly the death of Matthew Perry. One of them is sort of a timeline of the last day. Overt Act 75 would encompass this, including what you're about to see on screen. Perry's assistant injects actor with ketamine, 8:30 a.m. This is before, though. This is a text message of one of the doctors involved. Unbelievable. Wow. 2 doctors among the 5 people. Obviously known to deliver drugs, including the ketamine, to Matthew Perry. One of them saying, I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out. Unbelievable. We also had a timeline of exactly what happened on Perry's last day. It's just very vivid about how much drug use there was, including 8:30 a.m. You see it on screen. Perry's assistant injects actor with ketamine. Assistant injects him again, and then again, asking him to shoot me up with the big one. 3 shots in 6 hours. You would think that if there are are 78 overt acts. That would be number 78. It's actually 75 because the last 3 are about deleting text messages in a cover-up that prosecutors say was involved in this as well. But the whole point, though, the prosecutors are trying to detail is that Perry obviously had a history of addiction, that instead of these 5 people helping him with that, they further plunged him into that abyss of addiction and tried to profit from it. Yasmin.
One of my biggest takeaways from all of this, in addition to the trove of evidence it seems that prosecutors now have on these individuals, is just how deeply sad it is to understand the depths to which Matthew Perry went to obtain these drugs and the depths of his addiction and what he was dealing with in those final days. Steve, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
10 days since Ukraine dramatically shifted the course of its war by actually invading part of Russia. New videos posted by the Ukrainian military from the front lines amplifying now that success and giving us a striking look at the realities of modern warfare. I want you to take a look at this video, which Ukraine says shows the first hours of its push into Kursk. You see dramatic tank battles, destroyed buildings, scores of what appear to be Russian soldiers surrendering to Ukrainian armed forces as they advance. NBC's Aaron McLaughlin has the latest from Kyiv.
Hey there, Yasmin. President Zelensky today saying that Ukrainian military continues to gain ground in the occupied Russian region of Kursk, saying that intense fighting continues, but the Ukrainians maintain control. And the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk is a potentially significant turning point in this war. I was speaking to an advisor to the Ukrainian government who was telling me that at the moment here in Ukraine, the Ukrainian military is simply outmanned and outgunned by Russian forces. And if the Ukrainian military wants to gain the upper hand, it is essential that the Ukrainian military starts thinking outside of the box, which he says is what the Kursk incursion represents. And sort of the underlying goal, he said, of this maneuver is to draw forces away from other hot points in Ukraine, specifically in the Donbass region where Russian forces have engaged in an offensive. Now, I was speaking on the record to a senior advisor to President Zelensky, Mikhailo Podolyak, who tells me that the Ukrainians have no intention of occupying parts of Russia. Take a listen. Are you planning to stop at Kursk?
Не готовий відповідати на такі питання.
Again, we cannot comment on that because the operation is ongoing. It is a very spectacular operation, and its success also depends on the regime of informational security regarding this operation.
And I asked Podolyak if the strategy is now working, if the Ukrainian military is seeing Russian forces being drawn from other parts of Ukraine. He told me that he believes that will happen, quote, step by step. I was speaking to a Ukrainian drone operator who is on the front lines there in the Donbass. He says that while they have not seen any redeployment of Russian forces so far, the fact that the Ukrainians have been so successful in Kursk gives them hope, is really going a long way to improve morale. Yasmin.
Aaron, thank you so much. A woman under arrest tonight accused of trying to shake down Elvis Presley's family and essentially stealing his iconic estate, Graceland, from under them. This woman, Lisa Janine Finley of Missouri, facing her first court appearance in just the last few hours. She's charged with mail fraud and aggravated identity theft. She could get over 20 years in jail if convicted. And remember, this isn't the first time we're hearing of this grab for Graceland. Just a few months ago, a company that ultimately, by the way, led back to Finley filed a claim that the Presleys owed millions in unpaid loans on Graceland and tried to force a foreclosure on the property. Emily Akeda is joining us now with more on this. It's startling, really, how far this plot actually got. What more are we learning about it and how it got so far?
Yeah, so federal officials have been spending the last several months kind of untangling what has turned out to be quite a complex web of lies, and with the ultimate goal of trying to defraud Elvis Presley's family of millions of dollars by threatening the sale, putting up Graceland for auction. And they dive into a number of things, the great lengths that this woman allegedly went to, including using fake aliases, forging signatures, filing a fake deed of trust, even advertising advertising an imminent auction of Graceland in the local newspaper. And that's really when this burst onto the scene across the country and around the world, because everyone knows and recognizes what an iconic symbol Graceland is. And what she had done, speaking of aliases, this suspect allegedly kind of created this fake investment company and said that Lisa Marie Presley, the late Lisa Marie Presley, his daughter, had put up collateral Graceland. And when she did not repay a loan before her death, that's why this fake company should be able to allow to put it up for auction. Wow. Of course, all of this at the doing of Finley, according to federal officials at this point. They released a statement saying in part that she had used a brazen scheme to try to defraud the Presley family of their interest in this singularly important landmark. And that landmark, by the way, you think about it, 600,000 visitors a year going to Graceland. Also, the House appraised at $5.5 million. She appeared in court. We couldn't reach out. We did not reach her public defender for comment.
Emily Ikeda for us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Tonight, also a new bombshell lawsuit targeting Nudify or deepfake porn sites in an effort to crack down on companies and individuals who create and distribute pornography using AI. San Francisco City Attorney David Chu announcing a first-of-its-kind lawsuit alleging the sites manipulate and create images of kids without their consent. NBC's Savannah Sellers has the story.
Tonight, the long arm of the law starting to come down on fake and altered pornography generated by AI as the calls from victims of the high-tech harassment grow louder around the world.
These images are used to bully, humiliate, and threaten women and girls.
San Francisco City Attorney David Chu taking on websites that his office says allow users to nudify photos of real people, generating pornography from images of non-consenting adults and minors using AI.
These websites allow users to upload photos of real clothed individuals. AI technology will then, quote, undress these persons in the photo, creating pornographic images.
The sites have been visited more than 200 million times in just the first 6 months of this year, according to a new lawsuit. Chu is asking the courts to shut down the sites and force their owners to pay penalties.
While profiting off this content, these website operators have violated a plethora of state and federal laws banning deepfake pornography, revenge pornography, child pornography.
Prosecutors have yet to identify many of the owners of the websites in the suit. NBC News did reach out for comment to those listed where we could find contact information. We've not immediately heard back. Outside California, a patchwork of state laws means that the legality of so-called deepfake porn varies because the images are sometimes seen as technically not real in certain jurisdictions. They are not always considered illegal. But for those who have seen their likeness hijacked, the pain is all too real, especially for teenage girls and young women.
I did start crying because I was very emotional.
NBC's Valerie Castro spoke with another high schooler impacted.
Just immediately felt like nauseous and gross because, like, yeah, it's my face there, but that's not my body.
Parents are struggling to protect their children from this type of technology.
We do believe that they have been potentially posted online. We've been referred to the National Center of Exploited Children.
The images can circulate among victims' peers at school, leading to bullying or harassment. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a victim of deepfake pornography herself, is sponsoring legislation to address it nationally. It passed unanimously in the Senate. It's in the House's hands now, while an increasing number of states are also introducing and passing legislation to combat certain non-consensual, sexually explicit AI images.
Yes.
But for now, San Francisco says the action against the sites themselves is the first of its kind.
This investigation has taken our office into the darkest corners of the internet. All of us have been absolutely horrified for the women and girls who have had to endure this exploitation.
Savannah Sellers, NBC News.
Unbelievable stuff there. Thank you to Savannah for that. Coming up, a reality check on ceasefire talks in the Middle East as we learn of the first confirmed case of polio inside Gaza. Plus, how investigators in North Carolina caught an escaped killer after days on the run. Welcome back. President Biden today commenting on the latest round of Mideast ceasefire talks and sounding optimistic about where things are.
We may have something, but we're not there yet. It was much, much closer than it was 3 days ago. So keep your fingers crossed.
So the president's comments actually coming as talks between the U.S., Egypt, Qatar are wrapping up with a goal to reconvene next week in Cairo to finalize a deal to stop the fighting between Israel and Hamas and avoid this wider regional war. We just got a statement in from the White House. President Biden sending Secretary of State Tony Blinken to Israel tomorrow to continue diplomatic efforts and stressing that with a deal in sight, no one in the region should do anything to undermine the process. This is all happening, of course, as the region is still bracing for retaliation against Israel from Iran and Hezbollah 2 weeks after the assassinations of top Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. Raf Sanchez joining us now with more on all of this. Before we get into the talks, the ceasefire negotiations that are currently ongoing, I want to talk about this news that we're getting in from inside Gaza. We've talked a lot about the lack of sanitation there due to the bombings, the displacement of the people. And now we're getting this report from the Palestinian Health Ministry saying the first confirmed case of polio. Of course, on top of that, 40,000 people now dead inside Gaza. Walk us through that, Raf.
So, Yasmin, here's the deal. A couple of weeks ago, the World Health Organization said they had discovered traces of polio in wastewater in Gaza. But tonight, for the first time, the Palestinian Health Ministry is saying they have identified a child who has contracted that disease. This is a 10-month-old baby, Yasmin. So you do the math. This baby was born around October 7th, has known nothing but war, not vaccinated because Gaza's healthcare system has completely collapsed in the course of the fighting, and now has contracted this very serious disease. And this is only the first child that we know about, but it's very likely that there are many more. And the United Nations is saying the only way to stop the spread of polio is to stop the fighting and then roll out an intensive vaccination campaign. So this is a very serious moment. Gaza has been polio-free for 25 years. Wow. That disease is back now, and the question is there any chance of stopping it?
Incredible to think about now one confirmed case of polio, but not necessarily surprising considering the reporting we're getting from inside Gaza and the lack of sanitation and medical needs that Gazans have right now inside that area. Let's talk about this ongoing ceasefire talks, Raf, if we can for a moment. And I want to keep in mind as we're talking about this that Hamas has repeatedly said that they've already agreed to a ceasefire deal that was previously negotiated. Yet here we are with folks seemingly optimistic about the direction in which we're headed. Give us a reality check on this.
So the White House is allowing themselves to sound optimistic. They were briefing reporters a little while earlier, and they said their hope is that next week in Cairo, they are going to get to a final agreement to pause the fighting in Gaza, get that first wave of hostages out, and then the hope is to build from there into something more permanent. As you said, Hamas is already making negative noises about what came out of those talks in Qatar over the last 2 days. It's really important to stress, Yasmin, these are ongoing negotiations. Right. It may be that Hamas doesn't want to concede anything at this point. You know, they'll save their concessions for the closed room. In terms of Israel, they are saying they thank the mediators. We don't know exactly what their take is. It was interesting, Yasmin, the White House saying Israel should not hold out for what it calls the perfect deal, because if it does, there may not be any hostages alive at the end of the process. And the White House is saying that is not an acceptable outcome.
One last one for you, Rafa, and we've been talking about this over the last couple of weeks, which is the expected retaliation from Iran, which has not come over the last 2 weeks or so. How much do we think this is due to these ongoing negotiations? Do we feel as if that will be coming, and then that could obviously veer these negotiations off track?
So it's really interesting. The Qatari foreign minister has called his Iranian counterpart twice in the last 2 days, updating him on what's going on in the talks. That is not something that we have seen previously. And the message from Qatar to Iran is pretty clear. Hold off on the attack, at least for now. Let this diplomatic process play out. We don't have any firm confirmation from the Iranians that they are agreeing to that. But, Yasmin, every night Israelis are looking at the sky, waiting to see those missiles, and they don't come. So there is some optimism that the Iranians, at minimum, are going to let this diplomatic process play out. Yasmin.
Thank you, Raf. Appreciate it. Want to get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a white woman in Florida convicted of manslaughter for shooting and killing her black neighbor. Susan Lawrence now facing up to 30 years in prison. The fatal shooting happened when her neighbor, A.J. Owens, went to confront Lawrence after she allegedly threw skates at Owens' kids. Lawrence then shot and killed Owens, a mother of 4, through the door. Number 2, new data revealing crossings at the southern border are hitting new lows. A report from U.S. Border Patrol shows crossings in July were at the lowest level in nearly 4 years, just a month after President Biden temporarily restricted asylum claims. And number 3, an escaped inmate convicted of killing a 1-year-old girl is now back in police custody in North Carolina. Remember, the inmate fled Tuesday morning, and there was a massive 3-day-long manhunt to find him. He's getting moved to a high-security prison where he'll serve the rest of his life sentence. A woman was also arrested and charged with aiding and abetting a fugitive. Number 4, New Jersey's governor now appointing his former chief of staff to replace Senator Bob Menendez when he resigned next week after he was convicted on federal bribery charges. George Helmy was the governor's top aide from 2019 to 2023. He'll serve as interim senator until the November election to fill the seat. And we got number 5, a public college in Florida facing new backlash for tossing hundreds of books in the garbage. A lot of these books are on race, sexuality, women's rights. New College of Florida, they're defending their actions, saying it's part of, quote, long-standing annual procedures, and it's coming in the middle of this years-long push by the governor, Governor Ron DeSantis, to turn the liberal arts school more conservative. All right, the stock price of Shake Shack is up this week on the back of some futuristic news. The beloved burger chain announcing it's partnering with a new company to start using autonomous burger delivery robot. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real, and it's gaining momentum. NBC's Dana Griffin has the story.
It works just like a telephone.
Last century's promise of robot servants.
Thank you. And I love you people too.
Is here, kind of.
Why move a 2-pound burrito in a 2-ton car?
Shake Shack's starting to use these robots to make deliveries at select Los Angeles locations, like this one on Santa Monica Boulevard. Orders placed on Uber Eats might arrive via a Serve robotic self-driving delivery system.
It's better for the environment, it's better for our congested urban cores, and it's better for the small businesses for whom the cost of delivery actually is one of the impediments to getting more and more orders from their local residents.
The company says they're mostly autonomous, equipped with LiDAR and cameras, but there are still humans in the loop remotely if necessary.
In case a robot needs help, it needs to be navigate around somewhere tricky or somewhere special or cross a street where we think that it's safer for a human to take control, we do that.
They've become popular on college campuses outside of California.
I think it's really cool.
But one college town has banned them. The city of Knoxville, Tennessee recently decided its downtown sidewalks were too narrow and there weren't enough rules in place.
If we didn't move forward with a prohibition on the books, we kind of have the Wild West regulatorily.
Serve Robot says they have no intention of expanding to Tennessee and says it takes a proactive approach to regulation generally. But the robot rollout here has not been flawless. In 2022, this Serve robot crossed a crime scene. The company says the robots usually reroute in these situations and that it only happened because a cameraman lifted the police tape. No harm was done, but it reminded us of another famous robot from Futurama.
Not guilty, although I did do it.
Shake Shack manager David Olmedo says they're helping his workers.
It just made it so much easier because now the orders can go out quickly. We're not having to wait for, somebody to go pick up the order and take it to the guests.
He says the robots are making 30 to 40 deliveries a day.
It's been fun to be able to interact with the future.
Dana Griffin joining us now. So many questions. I can't even get your name out, Dana. I have so many questions. Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to make this very personal. To get into my apartment, you have to punch in a code. You have to call up. Hey, I have it delivered for you. I have your sushi, right? I don't think that robot can do that. How is he going to get past security at some of the buildings, for instance, here in New York City? And by the way, I said he. Maybe it's a she. I don't know the gender of this robot. Yeah. Nonetheless, there's a lot going on here.
It's a lot. It is wild to see them literally operating. And, you know, Safe Robotics say that they work with governments when it comes to regulations, and they actually share data so that they can kind of fortify that relationship. But it is obviously very concerning for people when it comes to job protections, because think about this, Yasmin. These robots, they don't have to call in sick. They don't have to take a lunch break, and they don't have to leave work early for an emergency. And even Shake Shack, their owner says that their manager there says that these robots are performing at a 99.8% order completion rate. So it's wild to see that they are kind of outperforming humans in some aspects. But you're right, there are certain things that they will not be able to do. So we'll just have to wait and see how this all unfolds.
The age of the robot has finally arrived. I have to say, though, that robot in Tennessee looked quite lonely in that shot when we heard about how they had been expelled from the university campus.
He needs a buddy.
Just sitting there lonely on the corner, can't fit on the narrow sidewalks. Dana Griffin, thank you. Appreciate it. When we come back, we might be in the middle of the biggest COVID summer ever. What the spike in cases might mean for the winter wave, plus why a school district in Idaho says staff need permission from parents, I should say, to give kids Band-Aids. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. NBC covers hundreds of stories each and every day. And because it's tough to read, to watch, or listen to all of them, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment that we call The Local. From our Western Bureau, 10 Navy sailors hurt in some sort of training incident near Reno, Nevada. It all happened when 2 Navy helicopters apparently made a hard landing at an air station. The sailors got airlifted to a nearby hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The incident now being investigated. We're sticking with our Western Bureau. Students in Idaho can't get treated with Band-Aids unless parents say it's okay. It's part of this new law there that says parents must give permission before school nurses can perform any kind of medical service. The Boise School District sending a memo to parents saying it includes things like headache medicine and first aid. They're apparently telling staff to use their best judgment when providing care. Districts there could face civil penalties if they do not comply. From our Midwest Bureau, a river cleanup in Ohio leading to a crazy discovery. Police finding 30 electric scooters submerged deep in the river, covered in loads of mud, some of them owned by companies like Uber and Lime. It's not really clear how they all ended up there. All right, want to get to something now that may come as a surprise. The U.S. is in the middle of its biggest summer COVID wave in at least 2 years since the CDC started tracking this data, as experts are warning more severe variants could be coming, and some say there's no end in sight based on the kinds of numbers that we're seeing. The latest data from the CDC showing emergency room visits, hospitalizations, deaths are also ticking up across the country. You can see the red zones right there. Dr. Akshay Sayal is joining me now with more on this. Let's talk about this surge, because I got to tell you, I have spoken to a lot of folks this summer that have gotten COVID or feel as if they have gotten COVID, because not a lot of people are taking tests these days. When do we think it's going to hit its peak?
Yeah, I mean, Yasmin, I was one of them, that's gotten hit by this COVID summer wave, and one of the few who, you're right, is still testing now. So when we look at how much virus is out there, we're really relying on wastewater data, and that's that map that you just had on the screen there, really showing there's a lot of virus out there. And, I actually posed this question to Dr. Ashish Jha, the former White House COVID task force coordinator, and I asked him, when do you think this is going to end? And he said, over the next coming weeks here in August into September is when we should really start to see cases decline, Yasmin. And, that's good news, but I should caution, he did point out we are expecting a likely winter wave as well, and something that the new vaccines hopefully should be better targeted to, that should be available in the coming weeks. But Yasmin, to answer your question, by September is when we should start to see this come down.
So you're leaving off where I want to pick up, which is new vaccines, boosters. When can folks get them? How effective will they be? Should they be getting them?
Yeah, so look, if you're one of the people who's hit by this COVID summer wave, as I was, you want to wait at least 3 months because we think that if you get it too soon after an infection, it may not actually work as well. But for everybody else out there who hasn't gotten the latest vaccine or gotten infected, I would wait a little bit. And you can see here some numbers here from NYU Langone Health, Yasmin, just a mile or so from where you are in New York. You can see the number on the left is how many positive cases they had this July. The number on the right is last July.
Wow.
Over twice as many. Yeah. And so the good news here, Yasmin, though, is that, out of the 1,300 cases they had, only one was actually in the ICU on a breathing machine. So quite a different summer that we saw in years past.
Let me ask you this real quick, because I actually found out I had COVID only after the fact, because I went in for a checkup and they checked me for antibodies and my antibodies were sky high and I hadn't gotten a vaccine in quite some time. For those folks that didn't necessarily have any symptoms, do you recommend them going and getting, for instance, tested for antibodies to make sure they had it or didn't have it, and kind of figuring out when to get that booster?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do is really to take an actual COVID test when you are symptomatic. Yasmin, you know, those antibody tests that you take after an infection, you know, while yours was sky high, it is always possible that that was from the last vaccine or a previous infection. It doesn't necessarily say, you know, screaming for sure you have COVID. I mean, for those out there who did test positive this way, again, you want to wait for that 3-month mark before you go ahead and get that next booster, Yasmin.
Okay. Dr. Sayel, thank you. Tonight, Chicago gearing up for the DNC and the tens of thousands of people that are coming into town for it. And we are just learning former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is going to give a speech on Wednesday night. 3 sources telling NBC News that. Reminder, we are expecting to hear from President Biden Monday night, at Governor Walz Wednesday, Vice President Harris Thursday, in a convention that's going to look way different from what we imagined a month ago and make its own mark in the history books. For now, Hallie Jackson's taking a look back at some memorable moments of past DNCs in tonight's Breakdown.
The year 1948.
It's another Philadelphia story.
And a moment of unity when Republicans and Democrats both held their conventions in Philadelphia to try to save money. Democrats asking their political opponents to leave behind flags and bunting so they could reuse them at their convention 17 days later. Republicans obliging.
I accept the nomination of the Democratic Party.
Fast forward, and conventions have become entirely separate and increasingly predictable, though with plenty of opportunities to go off script. In 1968, anti-war protests defined the Democratic Convention. For 7 days, tens of thousands brought their voices and violence to demonstrations that would rock Chicago and shape politics for years. By 1984, a different kind of defining moment.
America is the land where dreams can come true for all of us.
When Walter Mondale chose Geraldine Ferraro as his running mate.
I proudly accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
She became the first woman on a major presidential ticket. In 2000, after months of criticism he was too stiff, Al Gore stepped onto the stage to accept his party's nomination with a full-mouth kiss that had tongues wagging. 4 years later, what seemed like the political kiss of death for Democrats of that era, ahead of President Bush winning re-election and Republicans controlling Congress. But at that year's convention,
the audacity of hope.
A then little-known Senate candidate from Illinois delivered an electrifying speech introducing himself to the party.
The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him, too.
Barack Obama setting the groundwork for his own 2008 run and historic win. In 2016, Hillary Clinton made history of her own as the first woman to be nominated for president.
When any barrier falls in America, it clears the way for everyone.
Clinton lost to Donald Trump then, but 8 years later, another woman will go head-to-head with the former president as Vice President Harris looks to make this convention her own.
Our campaign, this campaign, is a fight for the future.
Hallie Jackson, NBC News.
Thank you to Hallie for that big week ahead, to say the least. And we're going to be kicking off NBC's special coverage of the Democratic National Convention starting this Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, live from Chicago. We'll be live there throughout the convention. You do not want to miss it. All right, coming up, action across the country to reject racist fine print once meant to stop people of color from owning homes. How one community is changing it, one for sale sign at a time in our original. We'll be right back. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic that we've been watching. And tonight is the fight over racist language in housing documents. Basically, experts believing millions of homes across the country still have what's called this racial covenant. It's these legal clauses baked into property deeds to stop people of color from owning homes. So now cities like Mounds View, Minnesota, they're trying to get rid of these. They're requiring homeowners to reject the covenants before still selling their homes. One of the people behind it all, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who back in 2019 signed a bill to let homeowners reject the covenants. Here's Adrian Broaddus.
On this backyard basketball court, nothing blocks these kids from scoring. But some restrictions created before they were born say they can't live here or fill the space.
What did you find out about this property?
It literally says it's only to be occupied by a Caucasian race.
Darnell Baker manages Quincy House, a safe space offering extracurricular activities and mentorship, primarily serving Black and brown youth.
Historically, this house, we're not allowed, and this house is permeated with people of color.
In this letter from the city, Baker learned Quincy House is one of 571 homes in Mounds View, Minnesota, with a racial covenant, a legal clause embedded in property deeds designed to ban non-whites from owning or occupying property. Unenforceable today under federal and state law, but the clauses still sit on the page of many deeds, a reminder of how discrimination was printed directly into legal contracts, with impacts still felt today.
What does the green represent on this map?
The green are racial covenants. Even though racial covenants have been illegal since 1968, they continue to determine who lives where.
Historian Kirsten Delagarde leads the Mapping Prejudice Project at the University of Minnesota. We first met in 2016 when the project started tracing the history of racial covenants. Delagarde says covenants like the ones in Mounds View prevented Black families from home ownership.
Racial covenants worked in concert with discriminatory lending practices, real estate steering, and white violence. And in some places where we have found there are no covenants, when we go to the archival record and look at newspaper reports, we find that those areas were intense sites of violence against Black families.
For example, in 1931, the Lee family purchased a home in a white Minneapolis neighborhood. News articles from the time show neighbors vandalized it. Then, a mob of thousands taunted and tormented the family, forcing the Lees to move. And scars of America's racist, violent past persist. Multiple studies show white neighborhoods have more parks and tree cover, while communities of color have more landfills and highways, leading to poor air quality, not to mention the lasting consequences of the home ownership gap between Black and white families and generational wealth inequality. And that ugly covenant language is sometimes so tiny, buried in deeds like this, that people need a magnifying glass to read. But now the focus shifting, a groundswell of community activism across the country, prompting action like here in Mounds View.
My kids are children of color. I'm married to a woman of color.
Mayor Zach Lindstrom and the city council passing an ordinance requiring homeowners to discharge racial covenants when selling homes.
Aye. It's disturbing to me that in 2024, that language still exists.
Discharging the covenant doesn't erase the history. It adds a clause from the current homeowner recognizing and rejecting the covenant. Back at Quincy House,
I think often we get stuck with reparations as financial. This is reparation.
a front yard sign promises all are welcome here, but those covenants a reminder that wasn't always the case.
Adrian Broaddus joining us now. That is really fantastic reporting, Adrian, the lasting consequences of language like this and what it does to whole communities, whole Black communities. I think one of the gentlemen that you spoke to, the second to last gentleman that you spoke to, said it right, which is just how startling it is that this language even still exists in this day and age. Answer that question for us. How is it even still there?
It's history. And some people do not want to erase that history. But to be clear, the federal government banned these restrictions in 1968. Now, the removal or discharging of the language, as they call it, doesn't erase the language. It's more symbolic. But the impact is still felt because when you think about it, these covenants determined who could buy property, and purchasing property often leads to wealth. If you look at the most recent census data, it shows when compared to Blacks, white families have at least 10 times more wealth. So that huge wealth gap is felt there in Minnesota and other cities across the country.
Wow. Adrian Broaddus, really important stuff. Thank you. Still to come, everybody, what inspired one man to open up his own home to save senior dogs. Stick with us. NBC Universal Local's Clear the Shelters, Adopt and Donate campaign is underway. In 10 years, the program has found forever homes for over 1 million pets. Actor, producer, and lifelong dog lover Amanda Seyfried has teamed up with NBC, hosting our Clear the Shelters special premiering tonight. But right now, we're shining the spotlight on a Clear the Shelters hero, a Connecticut man and his family who opened their home in Hearts to help senior dogs.
I just get to be engulfed in love on a daily basis. My name is Todd Georgie, and I am co-founder of the Special Needs Senior Dog Sanctuary in Stamford, Connecticut. So other dogs find their way into our sanctuary, usually from organizations that we've adopted from before or that know us and know the specific work we do, because it's unique. You know, it's senior dogs, it's elderly dogs, it's neglected dogs, abandoned dogs, sick dogs, hospice dogs.
There's the king. This is the picture that came across my Facebook feed 12 years ago.
The story of when I first came across our first senior rescue, Chester, his picture came on my screen, and it was them trying to get people to come to their senior adoption event. I knew he would tend to 12-year-old pit bull that had cancer, that had been in the shelter for 8 years, wasn't going to leave there unless somebody adopted him. And I decided to be that person. In addition to me, the other co-founder of the sanctuary is my wife, Anna, and we have 2 kids, our daughter, Jagger, who's 8 years old, and our son, Lennon, who is 3. And then we have the 10 dogs.
Totally on board with it. We both had this passion to rescue the senior dogs and make this their final home. I was very excited for it.
Between the medical bills, vet bills, and things like that, it adds up quick. Absolutely the biggest challenge for our sanctuary is the financial support. We get a lot of donations as far as food and wee pads that we just go through on a regular basis. We try to fundraise and we post pictures, Instagram, Facebook, so people are really knowing what we're doing. I got Ruthie. The gift I give is I try to hold every single dog in my arms and kiss their head and tell them they're a good boy or a good girl, that they're going to see all of our other dogs at the Rainbow Bridge. That makes me happy, just looking past myself and being able to do something for that dog. And what they give back in terms of gratitude, it's tenfold.
By the way, remember, older dogs, they can be amazing. They can be loving companions, so do not discount them if you're thinking of adopting. My little dog Yogi is 12 and a half years old. Find your perfect pet by going to cleartheshelters.com. That's a wrap for this hour, everybody. Coverage picks up right now. We are coming on the air tonight with life on Bermuda stopped in its tracks as Hurricane Ernesto maintains its strength and gets closer to the island, bringing with it life-threatening conditions. Then on the campaign trail, Vice President Harris making an appeal to middle-class voters as she makes her first major policy speech on the economy. How the VP is trying to distance herself from President Biden's agenda. Then a Missouri woman in custody tonight for allegedly orchestrating a big scheme to basically steal Elvis Presley's Graceland mansion, how she was able to get so far into the whole plot before they tracked her down. And as, quote, nudify sites that create and share deepfake porn explode in popularity, a first-of-its-kind lawsuit aims at stopping an issue that sometimes isn't even considered illegal. The details on that ahead. Plus, next time you order takeout, your delivery person may be made out of metal, as we see more and more chains and restaurants using robots to deliver food. Not everyone is a fan, though. Hey, everybody, I'm Yasmin Vasugian in for Hallie Jackson tonight. We're going to begin with that breaking news out of Bermuda. The National Hurricane Center saying Hurricane Ernesto maintaining strength as it's making its way towards the island. They expect strong winds, dangerous storm surge, life-threatening flooding to begin shortly. The entire island essentially shut down, bracing for impact. You can see the wind starting to pick up there. Ernesto strengthening overnight to a Cat 2, and it's packing gusts over 100 miles an hour. The eye of the storm set to pass over the west end of the island tomorrow morning. It could bring up to 15 inches of rain. All day, folks have been boarding up their buildings, travelers getting out on last flights home. Government officials are warning locals to get indoors and to stay there as they prepare for what they are calling a long-duration event.
We are facing an intense and prolonged period, at least 36 hours of very powerful and life-threatening winds. Folks, be under no illusion. This storm is the real deal.
Then back here in the U.S., a warning for beachgoers this weekend, by the way. We could see extremely dangerous rip currents all up and down the Northeast. And then in Puerto Rico, people still recovering from this storm. Over 200,000 still without power. NBC's Stephen Roman, Angie Lastman are tracking it all for us. Want to start, though, with Stephen in Hamilton, Bermuda. Seems like, Stephen, things are really picking up behind you. Take us there. What are you seeing?
Yeah, Yasmin, things have picked up a bit since we last talked to you, but Bermuda already in the process of shutting down before the Ernesto actually makes its way here. The airport going to shut down in less than an hour now, so those tourists who are unfortunately planning their trips to coincide with Ernesto, they're going to have to hunker down if they weren't able to get out already. And people have been told to be off the road starting about now, local time. They're no longer supposed to be driving around. Not everyone heeding that, of course, but authorities are warning people if you get out and get in a rough situation, you're also putting others in danger because emergency services personnel are going to have to go out and try to rescue them. So something that they're really focusing on. Ernesto also causing other impacts as well for Carnival Cruises, Norwegian Cruise Line, and more having to divert some of their ships to get them out of Ernesto's path. It is having a lot of complicated effects. You mentioned Puerto Rico with hundreds of thousands still without power. That's really what they're hoping to avoid here. Bermuda really thinks that it might be in a better position than Puerto Rico. They have buried some of their utility lines. They're hoping that keeps the power on for people because, of course, it is hot out without that power, and they hope after Ernesto clears, most people, if not everyone, will still have their lights on.
Let's talk more about that, Stephen, if we can for a moment, kind of the preparedness for a storm like this, the infrastructure, right, the buildings built to withstand storm surges like the ones we're expecting in Bermuda.
Yeah, Fabian back in 2003 hit Bermuda really hard. It was that storm and many others that they've changed their building codes. Many of the buildings here, I was surprised to see that there are concrete homes and buildings out here, some limestone roofs. They really do have some solid infrastructure. But as people will tell you, meteorologists will tell you, no matter how much you try to prepare, no matter how strong a building is, there can be a hurricane powerful enough, a situation dangerous enough that an island can't be entirely hurricane-proof. They are, of course, preparing what they can and hoping for the best.
All right, Stephen Rowan, stay safe. Thank you for being there for us. Want to bring in NBC Angie Lastman now, who's been tracking the storm for us. Angie, walk us through this, right? Cat 2 heading towards Bermuda right now. How big? How fast? What are the expectations here on this thing?
So the deal is that we're going to see Bermuda's conditions continue to get worse as the day goes on, as the night goes on, and as we get into Saturday, Yasmin. We've got a Category 2, as you mentioned, winds up to 100 miles per hour. This system has tropical storm force winds extending out 275 miles from the center. So we're talking just a little over 100 miles from the center of that system to Bermuda. So they're already feeling the tropical storm force winds. You heard Stephen talking about it. Not quite yet, though, have the hurricane force winds arrived. The system, though, is moving at a good pace, so it's not going to take long for it to get there. We're expecting that timeline to be late into the overnight hours tonight, and then potentially the eye of it likely passing over or near Bermuda as we get into the early hours of tomorrow morning, maybe around 7 a.m. or so. We'll see those wind gusts continue to be elevated in almost the entire island, no matter where the center of it is. Looks like we'll see those hurricane force wind gusts. We'll also see this storm surge and the coastal flooding. Upwards of 7 to even 10 inches is going to be possible. I think that'll be on the high end of this, but either way, you get all of that rain in a really short period of time, and you're talking about the flash flooding being a concern. We saw it happen in Puerto Rico. We're likely going to see that same kind of thing play out here. Now, by the time we get into Monday, this will be into parts of the northern Atlantic, maybe watching for parts of Atlantic Canada to see some impacts, but that's way down the line. The United States, up and down the East Coast, we're going to see those red flag warnings up because the rip current risk is going to be elevated. When you have a system this size, it's going to bring substantial swells to the coast, and this is not going to be great for folks that want to plan on getting out on the boat off the East Coast or being in the water at those beaches. This is going to go essentially from Rhode Island all the way down to South Florida, and something that we will see last through the weekend. And Yasmin, it's worth pointing out the typical timeline that we see the third hurricane form in an average hurricane season is early September, about September 7th. So this is formed quite early. We know that the National Hurricane Center and NOAA have been predicting an extremely active hurricane season. So we've got a long way to go. This lasts through late November. November. So even once we're done with this system, we still, of course, will have much to talk about when it comes to hurricanes or tropical systems here through the rest of the season.
All right, Angie Lastman for us. Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it. Vice President Kamala Harris leaving North Carolina just in the last hour or so after her first major policy speech focusing on the economy, telling voters about her middle-class upbringing, saying that she plans to build on the foundation of progress in the economy.
Today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world. Still, we know that many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy.
All right, so opportunity economy. Here's what that would actually look like. Harris says she wants to ban price gouging for groceries, expanding the child tax credit from $2,000 to $6,000 per child for some families. She wants to cut taxes for families, frontline workers as well, build 3 million housing units, and capping prescription drug prices like insulin. Ali Rafa joining us now from Washington. I want to talk through some of the polling on this, because some of the most recent polling that we've been looking at when it comes to the economy really kind of showing Vice President Harris gaining the trust of voters when it comes to the economy at 42% to Donald Trump's 41%, to President Joe Biden's 35%. The margin of error, though, obviously incredibly tight there. I want to talk specifically about banning price gouging, right? We talked a lot about inflation. We've talked a lot about how we've seen high prices at grocery stores, for instance. How exactly would it work to implement a policy like this, Ali?
Yeah, Yasmin, well, you showed that poll there, and we've seen poll after poll for years now show that inflation is the top concern for Americans. And the Harris campaign is saying that even after we've seen inflation improve, even after we've seen production levels for some of these products that were at record highs, let's say a little bit after the COVID pandemic, things like meat or eggs, et cetera, even after those have leveled off, that these big corporations have not reduced prices. They've kept them the same or even raised them instead of passing on these savings to consumers. And these are consumers like one restaurant owner in Raleigh, North Carolina, where the vice president spoke today. Listen to that restaurant owner here.
Our food costs here are incredibly high. If you're buying a used car, you know, that's high. If you're trying to fill it with gas, that's high. So the everyday things that people feel are still, you know, way high, and it takes money out of their pocket for other things that they need to do.
So the Harris campaign is saying that there are several parts to this effort that the vice president herself says that she would work with Congress to be able to achieve if she's elected in November. They say that she would offer more support to small businesses to create more competition in these certain markets instead of having one or two of these big companies dominate the market. They would also give authority to the FTC and state attorneys general to create rules and impose fines on companies that violate those rules. So all of this trying to prevent this inflation from rising, address these issues that you saw in those polls. The question is whether that will actually work, given that she has this extremely tight timeline with now just 80 days until the election.
So I want to pull on that thread just a little bit, because it's a conversation that has been ongoing, right? The difficulties that the vice president has in distinguishing herself from President Biden, specifically, for instance, here on the economy. She's polling better than him on the economy. How exactly is she distinguishing herself from him?
Yeah, so we're seeing her sort of do this delicate dance where she is certainly embracing the work that she has done with President Biden on some of these key issues. For example, she talked about her work cutting drug prices with him today, and that got a big reaction and praise from the crowd. But we are seeing her, in a sense, distance herself from her work in the administration, even on that specific issue, bringing up her time working to cut drug prices, for example, as her time as Attorney General of California, to try to broaden that out to an effort and a passion of hers from even before her time as vice president. And we're also seeing the vice president, similar to President Biden, as we've seen him recall countless times, his personal family struggles growing up with the economy. We're seeing her put her own personal stamp on this and talk about her own personal stories, how she saw her mom save up for more than a decade before buying her first home, how she worked at McDonald's when she was younger for extra cash while seeing other people work at McDonald's efforts to support their entire family. So we're seeing her create some distance, but of course the real question is whether that is going to have an impact in just these next couple months before the election. Yasmin.
Hallie Rafa for us. Thank you, Hallie. Appreciate it. Also tonight, we are learning more about the 5 people that were charged in Matthew Perry's death and their alleged role in providing him with dangerous levels of ketamine. You have Kenneth Iwamasa, Perry's live-in assistant, who's accused of acting as this intermediary between him and the drug to get the drug to his boss. Prosecutors also saying he injected Perry with ketamine multiple times, even though he didn't have any medical training. Dr. Mark Chavez and Dr. Salvador Plasencia, both accused of providing Perry with ketamine. Prosecutors saying Plasencia told a patient that Perry was too far gone and was spiraling in his addiction, but still offered to sell the actor ketamine. That happened the week before Matthew Perry died. And then when Perry and his assistant went looking for more ketamine, Perry's mutual friend, Eric Fleming, introduced them to the ketamine queen, that is Jasveen Sangha. Plasencia and the ketamine queen have pled not guilty to the charges against them. Steve Patterson joining us with all of this. Let's talk about the defendants here facing years, if not decades, in prison. What happened in court yesterday and what comes next?
So I want to draw a differentiation between the people you just put on screen, right? There's 5 defendants, as you mentioned, the ketamine queen and Dr. P. The last 2 are sort of the primaries, right? These are the main defendants that police went after in an action yesterday, arresting them, charging them. They pled yesterday, pled not guilty, by the way, and they will have court dates later on this month and a trial date set for October. Those are outside of the other 3, the personal assistant, the guy that's the intermediary, the other medical doctor. Those have all pled guilty. And obviously, they would be cooperating in some way with the investigation in order to get more on the people who are the primaries in this case. So we know about that. And obviously, as it moves forward, we'll get more information in these later court dates. But all of this is for the trial, which is moving forward to October.
A lot of folks are comparing this to what we saw go down with Michael Jackson and his death and Dr. Conrad Murray, who was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Do we know why it was the prosecutors decided not to move forward with charges of involuntary manslaughter here?
So a little bit different in a few levels. Everybody, of course, remembers this huge case, 2009, Michael Jackson, his doctor, Conrad Murray, injecting him with Profilol, that incredible amount of agent for his insomnia, which was way too much, according to prosecutors. He got 4 years, I believe, from that case. It's a little different in a few ways. One, that was a state case. This is a federal case. Those two are sort of, the comparisons are a lot different, right? They would be able to get charges and get convictions on things that are more like transporting, like delivery, like what has been accused here, which is distribution of ketamine leading to death. Different sort of set of charges. Also, as sort of, we've talked about with the timeline, the doctors, him getting his hands on the ketamine from the doctors was before him getting his hands on the ketamine from the queen of ketamine, right? He is obviously falling back into a state of addiction, is looking for that next fix. And when he can't get enough from the medical doctors, unfortunately, who provide him some, he then moves forward to somebody who can get it more for cheaper. And so those final dosages came from her as well. So those are sort of the discrepancies. But of course, federal prosecutors are moving swiftly, and they're going to throw the book at everybody.
And really kind of showing the depth and the desperation, really, of Matthew Perry's addictions in those final days of his life. Steve, thank you. Appreciate it. A woman is under arrest tonight accused of trying to shake down Elvis Presley's family and essentially stealing his iconic estate Graceland from under them. This woman, Lisa Janine Finley of Missouri, facing her first court appearance in just the last couple of hours. She's charged with mail fraud and aggravated identity theft. She could get over 20 years in jail if convicted. Remember here, this is not the first time that we're hearing of this grab for Graceland just a few months ago. A company that ultimately led back to Finley filed a claim that the Presleys owed millions in unpaid loans on Graceland and tried to force a foreclosure on the property. Emily Ikeda joins me now. It's startling, really, how far this plot actually got? What more are we learning about it and how it got so far?
Yeah, so federal officials have been spending the last several months kind of untangling what has turned out to be quite a complex web of lies, and with the ultimate goal of trying to defraud Elvis Presley's family of millions of dollars by threatening the sale, putting up Graceland for auction. And they dive into a number of things, the great lengths that this woman allegedly went to, including using fake aliases, forging signatures, filing a fake deed of trust, even advertising an imminent auction of Graceland in the local newspaper. And that's really when this burst onto the scene across the country and around the world, because everyone knows and recognizes what an iconic symbol Graceland is. And what she had done, speaking of aliases, this suspect allegedly kind of created this fake investment company and said that Lisa Marie Presley, the late Lisa Marie Presley, his daughter, had put up collateral Graceland. And when she did not repay a loan before her death, that's why this fake company should be able to allow to put it up for auction. Wow. Of course, all of this at the doing of Finley, according to federal officials at this point. They released a statement saying in part that she had used a brazen scheme to try to defraud the Presley family of their interest in this singularly important landmark. And that landmark, by the way, you think about it, 600,000 visitors a year going to Graceland. Also, the House appraised at $5.5 million. She appeared in court. We couldn't reach out. We did not reach her public defender for comment.
Emily Akeda for us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Tonight, a new bombshell lawsuit targeting Nudify or deepfake porn sites in an effort to crack down on companies and individuals who create and distribute pornography using artificial intelligence. San Francisco City Attorney David Chu announcing a first-of-its-kind lawsuit alleging the sites manipulate and create images of kids without their consent. NBC's Savannah Sellers has more.
Tonight, the long arm of the law starting to come down on fake and altered pornography generated by AI as the calls from victims of the high-tech harassment grow louder around the world.
These images are used to bully, humiliate, and threaten women and girls.
San Francisco City Attorney David Chu taking on websites that his office says allow users to nudify photos of real people, generating pornography from images of non-consenting adults and minors using AI.
These websites allow users to upload photos of real clothed individuals. AI technology will then, quote, undress these persons in the photo, creating pornographic images.
The sites have been visited more than 200 million times in just the first 6 months of this year, according to a new lawsuit. Chu is asking the courts to shut down the sites and force their owners to pay penalties.
While profiting off this content, these website operators have violated a plethora of state and federal laws banning deepfake pornography, revenge pornography, child pornography.
Prosecutors have yet to identify many of the owners of the websites in the suit. NBC News did reach out for comment to those listed where we could find contact information. We've not immediately heard back. Outside California, a patchwork of state laws means that the legality of so-called deepfake porn varies because the images are sometimes seen as technically not real in certain jurisdictions. They are not always considered illegal. But for those who have seen their likeness hijacked, the pain is all too real, especially for teenage girls and young women.
I did start crying because I was very emotional.
NBC's Valerie Castro spoke with another high schooler impacted.
Just immediately felt like nauseous and gross because, like, yeah, it's my face there, but that's not my body.
Parents are struggling to protect their children from this type of technology.
We do believe that they have been potentially posted online. We've been referred to the National Center of Exploited Children.
The images can circulate among victims' peers at school, leading to bullying or harassment. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a victim of deepfake pornography herself, is sponsoring legislation to address it nationally. It passed unanimously in the Senate. It's in the House's hands now, while an increasing number of states are also introducing and passing legislation to combat certain non-consensual, sexually explicit AI images.
Yes.
But for now, San Francisco says the action against the sites themselves is the first of its kind.
This investigation has taken our office into the darkest corners of the internet. All of us have been absolutely horrified for the women and girls who have had to endure this exploitation.
Savannah Sellers, NBC News.
Coming up, the new warning just coming from President Biden, the signal that he's sending to Iran as negotiators race to get a deal in the Middle East. Plus, the new numbers just into us showing encounters at the southern border down to levels not seen in years as the battle over the border takes center stage in the election. President Biden today commenting on the latest round of Mideast ceasefire talks and sounding optimistic about where things are.
We may have something, but we're not there yet. But it's much, much closer than it was 3 days ago. So keep your fingers crossed.
The president's comments come in as talks between the U.S., Egypt, Qatar wrapped up with a goal to reconvene next week in Cairo to finalize a deal to stop the fighting between Israel and Hamas and avoid a wider regional war. We just got a statement from the White House. President Biden sending Secretary of State Tony Blinken to Israel tomorrow to continue diplomatic efforts and stressing that with a deal in sight, no one in the region should do anything to undermine this process. All of this happening as the region is still bracing for retaliation against Israel from Iran and Hezbollah 2 weeks after the assassinations of top Hamas and Hezbollah leaders. Raf Sanchez is joining us now. Before we get into the talks, the ceasefire negotiations that are currently ongoing, I want to talk about this news that we're getting in from inside Gaza. We've talked a lot about the lack of sanitation there due to the bombings, the displacement of the people. And now we're getting this report from the Palestinian Health Ministry saying the first confirmed case of polio. Of course, on top of that, 40,000 people now dead inside Gaza. Walk us through that, Raf.
So, Yasmin, here's the deal. A couple of weeks ago, the World Health Organization said they had discovered traces of polio in wastewater in Gaza. But tonight, for the first time, the Palestinian Health Ministry is saying they have identified a child who has contracted that disease. Wow. This is a 10-month-old baby, Yasmin. So you do the math. This baby was born around October 7th, has known nothing but war, not vaccinated because Gaza's healthcare system has completely collapsed in the course of the fighting, and now has contracted this very serious disease. And this is only the first child that we know about, but it's very likely that there are many more. And the United Nations is saying the only way to stop the spread of polio is to stop the fighting and then roll out an intensive vaccination campaign. So this is a very serious moment. Gaza has been polio-free for 25 years. Wow. That disease is back now, and the question is there any chance of stopping it?
Incredible to think about now one confirmed case of polio, but not necessarily surprising considering the reporting we're getting from inside Gaza and the lack of sanitation and medical needs that Gazans have right now inside that area. Let's talk about this ongoing ceasefire talks, Raf, if we can for a moment. And I want to keep in mind as we're talking about this that Hamas has repeatedly said that they've already agreed to a ceasefire deal that was previously negotiated. Yet here we are with folks seemingly optimistic about the direction in which we're headed. Give us a reality check on this.
So the White House is allowing themselves to sound optimistic. They were briefing reporters a little while earlier, and they said their hope is that next week in Cairo, they are going to get to a final agreement to pause the fighting in Gaza, get that first wave of hostages out, and then the hope is to build from there into something more permanent. As you said, Hamas is already making negative noises about what came out of those talks in Qatar over the last 2 days. It's really important to stress, Yasmin, these are ongoing negotiations. Right. It may be that Hamas doesn't want to concede anything at this point. You know, they'll save their concessions for the closed room. In terms of Israel, they are saying they thank the mediators. We don't know exactly what their take is. It was interesting, Yasmin, the White House saying Israel should not hold out for what it calls the perfect deal, because if it does, there may not be any hostages alive at the end of the process. And the White House is saying that is not an acceptable outcome.
One last one for you, Raf, and we've been talking about this over the last couple of weeks, which is the expected retaliation from Iran, which has not come over the last 2 weeks or so. How much do we think this is due to these ongoing negotiations? Do we feel as if that will be coming, and then that could obviously veer these negotiations off track?
So it's really interesting. The Qatari foreign minister has called his Iranian counterpart twice in the last 2 days, updating him on what's going on in the talks. That is not something that we have seen previously. And the message from Qatar to Iran is pretty clear. hold off on the attack, at least for now. Let this diplomatic process play out. We don't have any firm confirmation from the Iranians that they are agreeing to that. But Yasmin, every night Israelis are looking at the sky, waiting to see those missiles, and they don't come. So there is some optimism that the Iranians, at minimum, are going to let this diplomatic process play out. Yasmin.
Thank you, Raf. Appreciate it. Want to get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a white woman in Florida convicted of manslaughter for shooting and killing her black neighbor. Susan Lawrence now facing up to 30 years in prison. The fatal shooting happening when our neighbor A.J. Owens went to confront Lawrence after she allegedly threw skates at Owens' kids. Lawrence then shot and killed Owens, a mother of 4, through the door. Number 2, new data revealing crossings at the southern border are hitting new lows. A report from U.S. Border Patrol showing crossings in July were at the lowest levels in nearly 4 years, just a month after President Biden temporarily restricted asylum claims. Number 3, an escaped inmate convicted of killing a 1-year-old girl is now back in police custody in North Carolina. Remember, the inmate fled Tuesday morning, and there was a massive 3-day-long manhunt to find him. He's getting moved to a high-security prison where he'll serve the rest of his life sentence. A woman was also arrested and charged with aiding and abetting a fugitive. Number 4, Ford recalling over 80,000 of its Explorer police cars because of a possible fire hazard. Apparently, the engines might fail prematurely, causing a fire under the hood. Safety officials saying there have been over a dozen reports of under-hood fires in North America. Ford saying it is not aware of any reports of accident or injury. At number 5, Eugene and Dan Levy will be the first ever father and son co-hosts of the Emmy Awards next month. The actors starred in the show Schitt's Creek, the first time I've said that word on television, which swept the Comedy Awards at the 2020 Emmys. The Levys said in a statement that they are, quote, thrilled to be able to raise a glass to this extraordinary season of television. The stock price of Shake Shack is up this week on the back of some futuristic news. The beloved burger chain announced it's partnering with a new company to start using autonomous burger delivery robots. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually real life, and it's gaining momentum. Dana Griffin has the story.
It works just like a telephone.
Last century's promise of robot servants.
Thank you. And I love you people too.
Is here, kind of.
Why move a 2-pound burrito in a 2-ton car?
Shake Shack's starting to use these robots to make deliveries at select Los Angeles locations, like this one on Santa Monica Boulevard. Orders placed on Uber Eats might arrive via a Serve robotic self-driving delivery system.
It's better for the environment, it's better for our congested urban cores, and it's better for the small businesses for whom the cost of delivery actually is one of the impediments to getting more and more orders from their local residents.
The company says they're mostly autonomous, equipped with LiDAR and cameras, but there are still humans in the loop remotely if necessary.
In case a robot needs help, it needs to be navigate around somewhere tricky or somewhere special or cross a street where we think that it's safer for a human to take control, we do that.
They've become popular on college campuses outside of California.
I think it's really cool.
But one college town has banned them. The city of Knoxville, Tennessee recently decided its downtown sidewalks were too narrow and there weren't enough rules in place.
If we didn't move forward with a prohibition on the books, we kind of have the Wild West regulatorily.
Serve Robot says they have no intention of expanding to Tennessee and says it takes a proactive approach to regulation generally. But the robot rollout here has not been flawless. In 2022, this Serve Robot crossed a crime scene. The company says the robots usually reroute in these situations and that it only happened because a cameraman lifted the police tape. No harm was done, but it reminded us of another famous robot from Futurama.
Not guilty, although I did do it.
Shake Shack manager David Olmedo says they're helping his workers.
It just made it so much easier because now the orders can go out quickly. We're not having to wait for, somebody to go pick up the order and take it to the guests.
He says the robots are making 30 to 40 deliveries a day.
It's been fun to be able to interact with the future.
Dana Griffin joining us now. So many questions. I can't even get your name out, Dana. I have so many questions. Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to make this very personal. To get into my apartment, you have to punch in a code. You have to call up. Hey, I have it delivered for you. I have your sushi, right? I don't think that robot can do that. How is he going to get past security at some of the buildings, for instance, here in New York City? And by the way, I said he. Maybe it's a she. I don't know the gender of this robot. Nonetheless, there's a lot going on here.
It's a lot. It is wild to see them literally operating. And, you know, Safe Robotics say that they work with governments when it comes to regulations, and they actually share data so that they can kind of fortify that relationship. But it is obviously very concerning for people when it comes to job protections, because think about this, Yasmin. These robots, they don't have to call in sick. They don't have to take a lunch break, and they don't have to leave work early for an emergency. And even Shake Shack, their owner says that their manager there says that these robots are performing at a 99.8% order completion rate. So it's wild to see that they are kind of outperforming humans in some aspects. But you're right, there are certain things that they will not be able to do. So we'll just have to wait and see how this all unfolds.
The age of the robot has finally arrived. I have to say, though, that robot in Tennessee looked quite lonely in that shot when we heard about how they had been expelled from the university campus.
He needs a buddy.
Just sitting there lonely on the corner, can't fit on the narrow sidewalks. Dana Griffin, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, coming up, the surprising COVID summer surge catching a whole lot of people off guard. How worried should we be for the winter? Plus, the bronze medal battle now coming to an end, but not without a lot of outrage. All right, welcome back. NBC covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because it's tough to read, to watch, or listen to all of them, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment that we call The Global. From Uganda, police say dozens of people have died after a mountain of trash collapsed in the capital. Basically, a chunk of it broke off of a mound at a dump and buried dozens of homes near it while people were sleeping. It happened after heavy rains and flooding. More than 24 people are missing. Out of India, thousands of people protesting across the country and police arresting hundreds after a trainee doctor was raped and murdered at a government hospital last week. A police volunteer has been detained. A medical association is now telling doctors in India to not work tomorrow unless they are in emergency departments. From Romania, the gymnast who got bumped back up to third place in the Olympic floor exercise was awarded a bronze medal in a ceremony today after it was stripped from U.S. gymnast Jordan Childs. The Romanian gymnast called the controversy saddening, but says she's very happy to have the medal. The U.S. is still fighting to get the bronze back for Childs. Now to something that may come as a surprise. The U.S. is in the middle of its biggest summer COVID wave in at least 2 years since the CDC started tracking this data. As experts warn, more severe variants could be coming, and some say there's no end in sight based on the kinds of numbers that we're seeing. The latest data from the CDC showing emergency room visits, hospitalizations, deaths are also ticking up across the country. You can see the red zones right here. Dr. Akshay Sayal joins me now with more. Let's talk about this surge, because I got to tell you, I have spoken to a lot of folks this summer that have gotten COVID or feel as if they have gotten COVID, because not a lot of people are taking tests these days. When do we think it's going to hit its peak?
Yeah, I mean, Yasmin, I was one of them, that's gotten hit by this COVID summer wave, and one of the few who, you're right, is still testing now. So when we look at how much virus is out there, we're really relying on wastewater data, and that's that map that you just had on the screen there, really showing there's a lot of virus out there. And, I actually posed this question to Dr. Ashish Jha, the former White House COVID task force coordinator, and I asked him, when do you think this is going to end? And he said, over the next coming weeks here in August into September is when we should really start to see cases decline, Yasmin. And, that's good news, but I should caution, he did point out we are expecting a likely winter wave as well, and something that the new vaccines hopefully should be better targeted to, that should be available in the coming weeks. But Yasmin, to answer your question, by September is when we should start to see this come down.
So you're leaving off where I want to pick up, which is new vaccines, boosters. When can folks get them? How effective will they be? Should they be getting them?
Yeah, so look, if you're one of the people who's hit by this COVID summer wave, as I was, you want to wait at least 3 months because we think that if you get it too soon after an infection, it may not actually work as well. But for everybody else out there who hasn't gotten the latest vaccine or gotten infected, I would wait a little bit. And you can see here some numbers here from NYU Langone Health, Yasmin, just a mile or so from where you are in New York. You can see the number on the left is how many positive cases they had this July. The number on the right is last July.
Wow.
Over twice as many. Yeah. And so the good news here, Yasmin, though, is that, out of the 1,300 cases they had, only one was actually in the ICU on a breathing machine. So quite a different summer that we saw in years past.
Let me ask you this real quick, because I actually found out I had COVID only after the fact, because I went in for a checkup and they checked me for antibodies and my antibodies were sky high and I hadn't gotten a vaccine in quite some time. For those folks that didn't necessarily have any symptoms, do you recommend them going and getting, for instance, tested for antibodies to make sure they had it or didn't have it, and kind of figuring out when to get that booster?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to do is really to take an actual COVID test when you are symptomatic. Yasmin, those antibody tests that you take after an infection, while yours was sky high, it is always possible that that was from the last vaccine or a previous infection. It doesn't necessarily say, screaming for sure you have COVID. For those out there who did test positive this way, again, you want to wait for that 3-month mark before you go ahead and get that next booster, Yasmin.
Okay. Dr. Sayel, thank you. Tonight, Chicago gearing up for the DNC and the tens of thousands of people that are coming into town for it. And we are just learning former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is going to give a speech on Wednesday night. 3 sources telling NBC News that. Reminder, we are expecting to hear from President Biden Monday night, Governor Walz Wednesday, Vice President Harris Thursday, in a convention that's going to look way different from what we imagined a month ago and make its own mark in the history books. For now, Hallie Jackson's taking a look back at some memorable moments of past DNCs in tonight's Breakdown.
The year 1948.
It's another Philadelphia story.
And a moment of unity when Republicans and Democrats both held their conventions in Philadelphia to try to save money. Democrats asking their political opponents to leave behind flags and bunting so they could reuse them at their convention 17 days later. Republicans obliging.
I accept the nomination of the Democratic Party.
Fast forward, and conventions have become entirely separate and increasingly predictable, though with plenty of opportunities to go off script. In 1968, anti-war protests defined the Democratic Convention. For 7 days, tens of thousands brought their voices and violence to demonstrations that would rock Chicago and shape politics for years. By 1984, a different kind of defining moment.
America is the land where dreams can come true for all of us.
When Walter Mondale chose Geraldine Ferraro as his running mate.
I proudly accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
She became the first woman on a major presidential ticket. In 2000, after months of criticism he was too stiff, Al Gore stepped onto the stage to accept his party's nomination with a full-mouth kiss that had tongues wagging. 4 years later, what seemed like the political kiss of death for Democrats of that era, ahead of President Bush winning re-election and Republicans controlling Congress. But at that year's convention,
the audacity of hope.
A then little-known Senate candidate from Illinois delivered an electrifying speech introducing himself to the party.
The hope of a skinny kid with a funny name who believes that America has a place for him, too.
Barack Obama setting the groundwork for his own 2008 run and historic win. In 2016, Hillary Clinton made history of her own as the first woman to be nominated for president.
When any barrier falls in America, it clears the way for everyone.
Clinton lost to Donald Trump then, but 8 years later, another woman will go head-to-head with the former president as Vice President Harris looks to make this convention her own.
Our campaign, this campaign, is a fight for the future.
Hallie Jackson, NBC News.
Thank you to Hallie for that big week ahead, to say the least. And we're going to be kicking off NBC's special coverage of the Democratic National Convention starting this Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, live from Chicago. We'll be live there throughout the convention. You do not want to miss it. All right, coming up, action across the country to reject racist fine print once meant to stop people of color from owning homes. How one community is changing it, one for sale sign at a time in our original. We'll be right back. To tonight's original now, with in-depth reporting on a topic that we've been watching. And tonight is the fight over racist language in housing documents. Basically, experts believing millions of homes across the country still have what's called this racial covenant. It's these legal clauses baked into property deeds to stop people of color from owning homes. So now cities like Mounds View, Minnesota, they're trying to get rid of these. They're requiring homeowners to reject the covenants before still selling their homes. One of the people behind it all, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who back in 2019 signed a bill to let homeowners reject the covenants. Here's Adrian Broaddus.
On this backyard basketball court, nothing blocks these kids from scoring. But some restrictions created before they were born say they can't live here or fill the space.
What did you find out about this property?
It literally says it's only to be occupied by a Caucasian race.
Darnell Baker manages Quincy House, a safe space offering extracurricular activities and mentorship, primarily serving black and brown youth.
Historically, this house we're not allowed, and this house is permeated with people of color.
In this letter from the city, Baker learned Quincy House is one of 571 homes in Mounds View, Minnesota, with a racial covenant, a legal clause embedded in property deeds designed to ban non-whites from owning or occupying property. Unenforceable today under federal and state law, but the clauses still sit on the page of many deeds, a reminder of how discrimination was printed directly into legal contracts with impacts still felt today.
What does the green represent on this map?
The green are racial covenants. Even though racial covenants have been illegal since 1968, they continue to determine who lives where.
Historian Kirsten Delagar leads the Mapping Prejudice Project at the University of Minnesota. We first met in 2016 when the project started tracing the history of racial covenants. Delagar says covenants like the ones in Mounds View prevented black families from home ownership.
Racial covenants worked in concert with discriminatory lending practices, real estate steering, and white violence. And in some places where we have found there are no covenants, when we go to the archival record and look at newspaper reports, we find that those areas were intense sites of violence against black families.
For example, in 1931, the Lee family purchased a home in a white Minneapolis neighborhood. News articles from the time show neighbors vandalized it. Then, a mob of thousands taunted and tormented the family, forcing the Lees to move. And scars of America's racist, violent past persist. Multiple studies show white neighborhoods have more parks and tree cover, while communities of color have more landfills and highways, leading to poor air quality, not to mention the lasting consequences of the home ownership gap between black and white families and generational wealth inequality. And that ugly covenant language is sometimes so tiny, buried in deeds like this, that people need a magnifying glass to read. But now the focus shifting, a groundswell of community activism across the country, prompting action like here in Mounds View.
My kids are children of color. I'm married to a woman of color.
Mayor Zach Lindstrom and the city council passing an ordinance requiring homeowners to discharge racial covenants when selling homes.
Aye. It's disturbing to me that in 2024, that language still exists.
Discharging the covenant doesn't erase the history. It adds a clause from the current homeowner recognizing and rejecting the covenant. Back at Quincy House,
I think often we get stuck with reparations as financial. This is reparation.
a front yard sign promises all are welcome here, but those covenants a reminder that wasn't always the case.
Adrian Broaddus joining us now. That is really fantastic reporting, Adrian, the lasting consequences of language like this and what it does to whole communities, whole black communities. I think one of the gentlemen that you spoke to, the second to last gentleman that you spoke to, said it right, which is just how startling it is that this language even still exists in this day and age. Answer that question for us. How is it even still there?
It's history, and some people do not want to erase that history. But to be clear, the federal government banned these restrictions in 1968. Now, the removal or discharging of the language, as they call it, doesn't erase the language. It's more symbolic. But The impact is still felt because when you think about it, these covenants determined who could buy property, and purchasing property often leads to wealth. If you look at the most recent census data, it shows when compared to blacks, white families have at least 10 times more wealth. So that huge wealth gap is felt there in Minnesota and other cities across the country.
Wow. Adrian brought us really important stuff. Thank you. Still to come, everybody, what inspired one man to open up his own home to save senior dogs. Stick with us. NBC Universal Local's Clear the Shelters, Adopt and Donate campaign is underway. In 10 years, the program has found forever homes for over 1 million pets. Actor, producer, and lifelong dog lover Amanda Seyfried has teamed up with NBC, hosting our Clear the Shelters special premiering tonight. But right now, we're shining the spotlight on a Clear the Shelters hero, a Connecticut man and his family who opened their home in Hearts to help senior dogs.
I just get to be engulfed in love on a daily basis. My name is Todd Georgie, and I am co-founder of the Special Needs Senior Dog Sanctuary in Stamford, Connecticut. So other dogs find their way into our sanctuary, usually from organizations that we've adopted from before or that know us and know the specific work we do, because it's unique. You know, it's senior dogs, it's elderly dogs, it's neglected dogs, abandoned dogs, sick dogs, hospice dogs.
There's the king. This is the picture that came across my Facebook feed 12 years ago.
The story of when I first came across our first senior rescue, Chester, his picture came on my screen, and it was them trying to get people to come to their senior adoption event. I knew he would tend to 12-year-old pit bull that had cancer, that had been in the shelter for 8 years, wasn't going to leave there unless somebody adopted him. And I decided to be that person. In addition to me, the other co-founder of the sanctuary is my wife, Anna, and we have 2 kids, our daughter, Jagger, who's 8 years old, and our son, Lennon, who is 3. And then we have the 10 dogs.
Totally on board with it. We both had this passion to rescue the senior dogs and make this their final home. I was very excited for it.
Between the medical bills, vet bills, and things like that, it adds up quick. Absolutely the biggest challenge for our sanctuary is the financial support. We get a lot of donations as far as food and wee pads that we just go through on a regular basis. We try to fundraise and we post pictures, Instagram, Facebook, so people are really knowing what we're doing. I got Ruthie. The gift I give is I try to hold every single dog in my arms and kiss their head and tell them they're a good boy or a good girl, and that they're going to see all of our other dogs at the Rainbow Bridge. That makes me happy, just looking past myself and being able to do something for that dog. And what they give back in terms of gratitude, it's tenfold.
By the way, remember, older dogs, they can be amazing. They can be loving companions, so do not discount them if you're thinking of adopting. My little dog, Yogi, is 12.5 years old. Find your perfect pet by going to cleartheshelters.com. That's a wrap for this hour, everybody. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.